they invited him for something called a bridge program for pre-engineering.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my God, that kid was homesick. The first week, he says, I didn't know it was gonna be like this, they don't give us any free time, blah, blah, blah. So since I was up there on the weekend of the Welcome to our special call meeting for August 1st. All members present, 6 in person and 1 on Zoom. Welcome, President Halsey. We're going to have a public forum, no speakers signed up. Consider approval of order authorizing the issuance, sale, and delivery of San Marcos Consolidated Independent School District Unlimited Tax School Building Bonds, Series 2023, and approving other matters incident and related thereto.
Good evening, Board. This evening, we have Robert Thereto to discuss the final pricing presentation. I think you have a copy in your presence as well. I'll turn it over to Robert.
Thank you, Mr. Doyle, Ms. Cantu, Ms. Halsey, Dr. Cardona, members of the board, Robert Thereto with Thereto, Galvano, Lawrence, School District's Financial Advisor. And we're here this evening to present the final pricing presentation. If you turn to page 2, this morning we went out and sold the entire 166 million change school voted bonds back that was approved on May the 6th. Yesterday and today combined in the market, there was over $1 billion worth of school bonds being sold yesterday and today, and I'm talking Texas school bonds. So congratulations. I know it's been, it seems like a long process, but here we are on the finish line. Again, we're able to sell the bonds this morning. If you notice on column E, we have the principal and interest payments beginning next fiscal year 2024. Based on the recent legislation that was approved, how the homestead exemption increased from 40,000 to 60,000, there's a lot of discussion with TEA and the legal language that was approved, and talking with the attorneys, bond counsel, Mr. Aguilera and Juan and Humberto Aguilera. They apologize they couldn't be here this evening. The recommendation was to make a interest payment this month, August the 15th, and close the financing before September the 1st. Their experience in reading the legislative is saying, interpreting that we have to get all of this stuff done, a payment, and close by September the 1st. And that was a couple of weeks ago. So we scrambled in order to make sure to have an interest scheduled for August 15th. Close the financing before September the 1st. So some things have changed, nothing has been finalized, and the voters haven't even approved that home session until November. So we don't know what's going to happen, but what we're doing right now is making sure to cross all our T's, dot all our I's, that we qualify. Potentially the school district could be held harmless or receive some state assistance on your interest and sinking fund tax rate side, and this is pertaining to the voted bonds, the ones we just sold today. So there's an interest payment scheduled in a few weeks, August the 15th, and that's on footnote 2, and that's on row 54, $85,395.69. We discussed that with your staff, and the funds are there to make that payment. So we're clearing that first hurdle to make sure that we go by what the state is saying right now. So we're going to make a payment, qualify the debt to potentially receive some form of state assistance. We're going to close the financing on row 48, column E, on August the 11th. We clear that hurdle. We're closing it before September the 1st. So again, the principal and interest payments on column E, we're able to obtain an interest rate of 4.08%, and that's on column E, row 47, and it's actually 4.05, but it came out to 4.08%. The interest rate that we provided back in June was 4.54%. So even though there was a lot of activity, the school district still looked great out there in the market, that you had a lot of investors willing to purchase the bonds from San Marcos. So we're on column K, row 13, the interest rate that we talked about with the bond committee, with the board, the tax rate, INS tax rate, I'm sorry, on column K, row 13 was 31.13 cents. We're able to achieve that. We're able to get that on there. So again, overall, we feel your staff has a good handle on the INS tax rate, 31.13 cents, which we talked about from day one. And there could be a compression. Well, not could be. your M&O tax rate's going to come down. So overall, what we talked about back in February, town hall meetings and right up to the bond election was the overall tax rate was going to go up net 1 penny. Well, we cleared that. It's actually going to not go up 1 penny. And I think Mike and Denise will share that with you. It's going to be actually less, but we're able to check off 3113 on the INS side, which we told the voters back in February all the way up to the bond election day of May the 6th. Now, if you notice, I'm sorry, on the page, we're able, on row 49, column E, we sold the entire amount of bonds. All three propositions totaled $166,187,958. That exact amount will be deposited. If this item is approved, will be deposited on August the 11th on the account that your staff provides to us. So again, if this item is approved, those funds will be wired on August the 11th. The overall cost of issuance, including the AG fee, bond rating fee, FA, bond counsel, the underwriters, every firm that was involved in this, the overall fee was $1,287,036, and that's on row 51, column E. But again, the district is going to receive the full amount to the penny for three propositions on August the 11th. So if you turn to page 3, this is a timetable. Once again, this all started after the bond election was approved on May the 6th. The board approved the plan of finance on May the 15th. We submitted permanent school fund application, and we received from the state a permanent school fund letter for bond insurance. They backed and enhanced the district's bond rating. So for $1,500, schools in Texas, school districts can submit an application, submit the fee, and you receive a AAA backing enhancement bond rating. So the district's current bond rating is AA2, which is a great bond rating. Paying that permanent school fund bond insurance, you went from a AA2 to a AAA. That's the highest bond rating you can get anywhere in the U.S. So we received that from the state and obtained that rating from Moody's. So we received that more or less on June the 21st. On June the 26th, we had a rating conference call with Moody's, and your staff did a great job. Denise and Mike, it was probably about 30 minutes long, but it was a short call, but there was at least 5 pages of questions that they had to respond to. Bottom line, Moody's back, and they continued to rate the school district at AA2. But remember, that's the underlying rating. Getting the permanent school fund bond insurance up to a AAA, it's like if we have a co-signer. So again, we have an underlying rating, a AA2 from Moody's, and a AAA with the state of Texas. What Moody's said, there was a few things they had good things to say about the school district, very strong operating reserves and liquidity, healthy enrollment growth. There's pressure for a bond rating upgrade. You're 2 steps away from the highest bond rating possible. You're at AA2. They're saying if you continue the student enrollment growth and you continue saving for a rainy day, building up the fund balance, there's pressure on them to look at raising up your bond rating, going from a AA2 to a AA1, and then you're 1 step away from the AAA. At that point, you'll never need to apply for permanent school fund bond insurance because you'll be at the highest bond rating possible. So, but with all those things that they had to say, the good things, they did say one thing on decline. If there's any pressure to downgrade the district, it would be your reserve funds start dropping down, your savings, your general fund balance. If that starts going down, it's going to be pressure on them to leave you at the same rating or possibly bring it down. So again, they had a lot of good things to say, but they also wanted to throw that out there in caution, continue to save, continue to build up that fund balance. So again, on this timetable, if this item is approved today, on August the 1st, we'll close on August the 11th, and the district will make the interest payment on August the 15th. And if you turn to page 4, we have the issuer, San Marcos CISD, financial advisor, bond counsel, and again, Juan and Humberto could not make it this evening. Actually, Juan had cataract surgery, and Humberto was at another meeting, so they both send their apologies. But the underwriters, you have Senior Gov't Capital Markets, Frostbank, Hilltop, Oppenheimer, Siebert, and Stiefel. Gov't, the senior, and the other co-managers did a really great job today and going out there and marketing the bonds, getting the bonds sold, so they were able to raise the capital. Their job is to sell the bonds and raise the money for the school district. So those guys did a great job today, along with their underwriters council, their two attorneys, Winstead PC and Cantu, Hart, and Montoya, both of them out of San Antonio. I know it's a lot of information, but I can't say enough. Congratulations. It seems like it's a marathon that we started out a long time ago, and here we are at the finish line. Your staff did a great job. All of this is a reflection also on the board. The bond rating staying where it's at, the great comments they had to say, there's pressure on it going up, continue saving up the fund balance, but the trust that the community had on the board and on the staff to vote yes on all three propositions. And we all know there's one proposition there that it's really tough to pass in the state of Texas, and y'all guys did it here. So again, congratulations, and this will be finalized if the board approves the agenda item. Any questions, Dr. Cardona, any members of the board?
I'm glad that you've mentioned that our reserves are going to be important, because I think that this is something that I've been in conversation with her, you know, Ms. Garcia, telling her that it worries me every time we take money out of our reserves. It really does. I think that really brings it home that we need to make sure we keep our reserves at a good level.
Yes, ma'am. Moody's, they do an annual surveillance every year. It's almost like clockwork, and it doesn't matter whether you're selling bonds or not. They just come and do a spot check. They'll send your staff, you know, questions, a list of questions, get with the superintendent, they respond back to them, and always, almost 100% guarantee, they're always looking at the fund balance. Those are one of the questions. Your staff had great responses, but that's the, you know, concern and pressure, you know, that if it goes down, it could be pressure.
And that's on us, I mean, to watch the budget.
Yeah, and save for the rainy day, continue to save out there. We never know what's gonna happen. We know that the legislators are looking at a compression, bringing that M&O tax rate down for all school districts, holding you harmless, hold harmless. But how long is that gonna be? When, you know, when will that stop? And if it stops, what happens next? So again, y'all have done a great job over the years, and it's transparent based on this bond rating and the bond selling today. You know, we can't say enough good things about it. It was pretty stressful, but your staff did a great job.
Good job, staff. Thank you. Anybody have any questions? Ms. Halsey? Anybody? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now we're ready for a motion, aren't we?
Yes.
Anybody?
I move that we approve the bonds as listed here in the agenda.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, motion moved by Ms. Kane, seconded by Ms. Villapando. Any further questions or comments or concerns? We're ready for a vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. 7. Opposed? 0.
Thank you,
Done.
Ms. Cantu.
Thank
members
you
of the
for
board.
everything you've done.
You're very welcome.
I appreciate you.
It's an honor, and I appreciate the opportunity to allow myself and my firm to represent the district as your financial advisor. Thank you so much.
And we
I hope everybody
appreciate
has a
all your
great-
work. We
very well.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great week and a great summer, the rest of the summer.
The rest of the hot summer. Okay. We're ready for the agenda review, agenda preparation for the August 21st regular scheduled meeting.
Madam President, members of the board, welcome back. It's good to have everybody back. Our team has been hard at work getting the campuses ready for an earlier start, which is coming up on us pretty quick. It took us off guard a little bit. This is our first year, so we're adjusting to some things. So just a couple of announcements. We had Mr. Mitchell, Edward Mitchell, Dale Mitchell, who left us to go back to Houston ISD, and so we wish him well. And having said that, Mrs. Munoz is going to serve as the interim chief of HR. She She is more than capable of taking on the challenge right now and getting us through and making sure that our campuses are fully staffed or as close to being fully staffed as possible. So, welcome.
Congratulations.
Also want to make an announcement that this Thursday, if possible, we do have summer graduation in the pack here for approximately 19 students that finished up their credits. So we will have that at 5:30 in the evening, again, here at the pack, and y'all are more than welcome to come. I think it'd mean a lot to them if you can stop by for those 19 students. And with that, I'll begin, if you don't mind, the agenda prep.
Go ahead.
So, item A, under reports and information, Dr., that's another congratulations, Dr. Sanders, who earned his doctorate a couple of weeks ago.
Yay. Lots of celebration.
Is going to be providing some academic updates. He will provide our instructional playbook, where we're heading, that I shared with you at the beginning of summer. Elizabeth Beth Nash will be providing what we have right now is an accountability update. What we still know in September they're gonna come out with some more stuff for us to deal with. And then in October, they're gonna have another special session to address some other things, but we gotta continue onward. But we'll have some reports. On this agenda, we do not have an item that we will be adding that Mr. Fernandez reminded me about today, and there's been a change in the law where we have to provide blackout dates for open records requests. And so we have to select as administration those 10 days that we consider blackout dates when somebody files an open records request, and we have to publicly post those for everybody. And so we'll have to add that agenda item in. But if I could go ahead and begin. Item B, we'll have our quarterly investment report by Mr. Doyle and Ms. Denise Garcia. Item 6, the approval of consent agenda items. We'll have the approval of minutes for regular scheduled board meeting on June 19, 2023, and the special call board meeting on August 1st, 2023. And then I wanted your guidance on, there's a couple things I'm going to mention going down the list under academics, and then under human resource, and then under operations. I'll go through them and then I'll talk about it afterwards, what my thought process is, so we can focus on academics on the report. So item A, Board of Trustees will have item 1, discussion and possible action to include all speech language pathologists and LSSPs on the longevity pay incentive program. Item A2, discussion and possible action to form a subcommittee to investigate actions needed to create an SMCISD police force. And that was brought by Trustee Salmi, so we'll begin that process. Item B1, under academics, consider approval of 2023-2024 Student Code of Conduct. Ms. Villanueva will be updating us on the current changes to the Student Code of Conduct, just what's required by law that's going to be in. A big one that will need the board's help in is vaping is now it's a big deal. And so we need to figure out how to get word out to the community that it's going to be a punishment for students. But she'll have a little presentation. Item B, under academics, consider approval of the grading guidelines. We don't have any changes to the grading guidelines. So those two, well, at least the grading guidelines, we want to move up to consent agenda since there's no changes. Item C, under human resources, consider acceptance of certified T-test appraisers for San Marcos CISD. We would like to also move that to consent agenda items. That's just a state requirement. Whoever appraises teachers needs to be certified, and the board has to approve that list of administrators. Then there's item D under operations. There's 16 items. I don't know if you want me to go through and talk about all 16, but in summary, they're all contractual, they all have to do with contracts. They're all requirements by the law. There's not a whole lot that can be discussed because we have to follow the rules. And so we'd like to move those 16 items up to consent agenda. And Mr. Sandoval's here to answer any questions, if you have any about those 16 items.
Anybody?
Many, excuse me. So many of these are the mechanism of assigning the contracts. Is that what all of them are? I haven't read.
So,
through all
2
of
through
them.
15, one is just, we do it every year, the adoption of the resolution of identified hazardous conditions in and around schools.
Yes.
And 2 through 15, last board meeting, we assigned the pool of architects, we made a decision on the 5 architects. And then the next step is to assign projects to those architects, which just lays out the projects. We grouped them based on the project size, based on, we tried to group like all the elementary school work that we're gonna do, all the middle school, and then I assigned architects to each of those. And just, as you can see there, Perkins and Will, which has been with the district for a long time, did the facility assessment for us. They got a majority of the projects. VLK Architects is gonna do the high school, or at least that's the proposition to y'all. And then Stantec is going to do the management.
And-
That's the way we've laid it out. So that's 2 through 15, half of it. The other half is the construction delivery method. So once we decide these are the architects, these are the projects, now we're gonna decide on how we're gonna take it to bid, right? Are we gonna do competitive sealed proposals, or we just throw it out there, we get a number, and we look at the credentials of the contractors, or are we gonna do construction manager at risk, where the construction manager that we decide has a little bit more skin in the game, they go through the design phase with us, and then ultimately, they help us with design, and then they ultimately do the construction as well. Which for some of the projects, you'll see, when you get the documentation, some of these are better served for CMAR, and others are better served for CSD.
So can we split them appropriate to which one is better
Yes.
served? Okay, so
Yes.
it doesn't need to be all or one.
Yeah.
Can you explain number 1 to our new board members and just refresh us all? I know we go through this every year, but they haven't been through it.
So item 1 is all the transport, like all, we're notorious for railroad tracks, hazardous routes, so I-35. So we have to, every year identify certain conditions, then that allows us, like for Mendez in particular, some of the families live within the 2 miles, wouldn't qualify for busing normally, but because they're in a hazardous route, it allows us to provide services for families. I think I got that right. Yeah.
Yeah, like Big Night, we want to try to limit the number of students that cross over 123, so we provide bus services for anybody within 2 miles.
And does this relate to our tax, or to our state funding submissions?
It doesn't really, it's,
Okay.
it might come, that's a good question. It might come into play like with mileage reimbursements and things like that and what they consider. Mr. Wozniak was the former transportation director. I don't think it really plays, but,
Okay.
it's just something that allows us a lot of leeway to help our families.
Okay.
And then the last item on there is item 16, so we issued an RFQ for certain professional services, which include testing and balances, geotechnical services, material testing, MEP, structural engineering, commissioning services. So we want to hire a pool of engineers, a pool of professional services, so that all related to the bond project. There's items that we'll have to do on our own, and we'll have these pool of engineers, services to choose, so surveys that we have to do on our properties, et cetera. This is just the procurement process.
But this all comes out of the bond money?
Yes. So the request is to try to move these to consent agenda.
I don't have a problem with it. I'm good with it.
Trustee Halsey keeps fading in and out. It's like a Star Trek episode when they're going in and out.
There she is.
There she is. All right, she's still there. Any questions, President Halsey? Any?
Anybody else? Okay.
Item E under safety, consider approval of school resource officer program interlocal agreement between San Marcos CISD and the city of San Marcos, acting by and through the San Marcos Police Department. So just for the board to know, we're bringing this in August. September 5th, the city council is going to look at their interlocal agreement, and I will be at that meeting with Mr. Sandoval and Mr. Wozniak. He doesn't know that yet, but Chief Stanrich asked if we could be there during the city council meeting. That's a special call board meeting for us, so Mr. Sanders they promised to try and get us in at 5 so that we could be here, but we won't know. But they're gonna be taking up the ILA at that point also to follow up. So,
Okay.
item F, finance, number 1, consideration and/or action to delegate contractual authority to the superintendent for the purchase of attendance credit. We've done this for the most part every year. I don't know if you want to explain it for our new trustees.
Yes, so this is, I guess, one more legal hurdle, if you will, that TEA puts in front of us that solidifies a recapture election, and we're able to make any kind of recapture payment if necessary. It's, like I said, it's one more clerical thing, if you will. This is a contract that will be agreed upon by the board and signed by superintendent and submitted to TEA.
And then item F, 2, consider approval of budget amendments.
Garcia.
So, in the budget, when we approve the budget, there are some items that I need to move from one function to another because I wrote it in the incorrect function. So it's not taking anything more from fund balance, it's just putting some money where we need it, that was not in the budget correctly. And there's 2 items.
Okay.
And Madam President, that's it that we have for agenda prep.
So now we'll go into closed session as authorized by Texas Government Code 551.001 and by Section 551.076, deliberation regarding safety and security, including safety personnel system and/or devices or security audit. B, discussion regarding marshals. So, going into executive session. out of executive session. We did have action on our school marshals in executive session. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. Mr. Shanks.
That we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
I have a motion for Mr. Shanks and a second from Dr. Sami that we adjourn the meeting. All in favor, please raise your hand. To adjourn, 7, 0 opposed. We stand adjourned.